major point I wanted to bring across when you asked that question. That I just believe there's a lack of trust and faith from the leadership core that we have now. And I really think that it's caused tremendous community issues. I think it's caused tremendous social issues. I think it has caused this drop. And if we're talking about the Real Man Project, we're saying this drop in masculine integrity. And there's nothing wrong with masculine integrity. And I don't understand where all of a sudden we have this group of leaders now that we have, and I'm not just talking about politics, but everywhere, that are basically rejecting this idea. And honestly, the human experience, if you look at it, it is built on that. It is built on the integrity of masculinity. And I don't see anything wrong with that. Like we've said, some people might not like that comment, but that's not detracting from females.
Yes.
Because there are plenty of females in the world that can demonstrate masculine tendencies for integrity and leadership. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think that's what's lacking.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And that's what usually one of my later questions is, that toxic masculinity that we always hear that exists. And it always baffles me, because I'm like, what does that mean? Like, what is toxic masculinity? What are you trying to get across? Like, men aren't supposed to be men. We're supposed to be more feminine now. I mean, I don't understand that. And I think people have blurred the line between a male and a female. We're different for a reason. God put us on this earth for different reasons. Some males tend to do things better in this area and females tend to do it. And when you come together, think about the union and think about what we can do together. But so many people are so busy of trying to step on the other person's, business and area that everything gets blurred together. And I think that's where this whole words come about, which I just don't understand. I really don't understand why we're doing this to society and confusing males. There's a reason. Men are hunters and gatherers. I don't care what anybody says. You go all the way back. That's what we are. And to say that we're not and that females can do it, nobody said females couldn't do it. It's just that's where, men strive here. We're just better at this point here. We do these things better. And I think your point being taken directly, we have blurred the lines and we're messing a lot of things up when it comes to confusion and all this kind of stuff going forward. So I agree with you 100%.
Well, and Dave, I think, it's like I've talked to a lot of females in our field and a lot of women, female coaches and very strong females who would agree with us and say, this is ridiculous. This is absolutely ridiculous. And you look at it when you talk about, I don't know where, and this is the term toxic masculinity, I think is made up. I think it is a social construct that doesn't really make any sense in the first place. What's wrong with going back in history and looking at, Spartan women were strong, forceful women who knew exactly their position in society to be great leaders as well within their own households and within the community. And there's nothing wrong with that. Basically they picked the people that would be, going to war. They picked the house, that's the whole with it or on it. Yep. Those were women saying that. And also, by the way, too, then what's the point of having a movie like Wonder Woman to depict a strong female in society who's representing masculine tendencies? See, I think masculine tendencies, that's about living in integrity. Yes. That's about living with chivalry. What is wrong with that? I'll give you an example. So my girlfriend, Karen, who I love very much, we've been together 4 years now. I hold the door for her every time. I pull her seat out, put her seat in every single time we go out or we're at people's houses. I do that. Why? Because my dad instilled that in me, to have respect. And to sit there and just, I don't know where we've gone with this, that you can't even say anything positive now about male-female relationships.
No, I agree. I'm 100%. I still did. Listen, I've been married for 14 years here, and I still hold the door for my wife. I still open the door. She can get in as a car. We still do the things we're about to eat, and she likes that. It's not like, I know she can do it herself. I know she can pull the door handle and step in herself. I know that. But when you downplay that, when people are coming out here and bashing people, why you think a female can't do that? No, I didn't say that. That's just like you said, my father instilled in me, you respect people. You respect the older adult. And that's what the whole man thing, what the real man thing is I'm trying to get about is, we lost our respect for certain groups, you know, and I want to bring that back. I want to bring that back where society gets back to that whole part of what we need to. So I'm 100% agreeing. I'm the same way. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I'm in agreement. I'd still do it, and I will do it to the day I die, till I physically cannot do it anymore. You know, and I don't care.
Too.
And if somebody wants to say something to me, go right ahead. You're not going to hurt my feelings. I'm cool with it.
True. Yeah.
Let me ask you this, okay? This is more of a personal type thing, and it can be a coach, it can be somebody you know, it could be a national level. Who do you see right now as a leader today, right now?
Well, listen. I mean, if you look at it, I'll take it from a personal perspective. So, my good friend Martin Rooney, Martin started Training for Warriors, and I'm good friends with Martin. I was one of the first TFWs in the entire world because I recognize, and here's what it is, Dave. It's not about the fitness part of it. It's about, I recognize what Martin was building, and what he was building was a company that's built to create leadership, a company that was created to build future spouses, parents. I just saw it as a mover in society, and this is why I really have a lot of respect for him. Every single week since this pandemic started, and he admittedly had to change his style when this all started. He's done this thing called the War Room, and it's just for affiliates who own TFWs. And it literally is life skills for adults, and saying the same things that we're talking about, that you know, living with integrity, living with what your passion is, believe in other people, let other people know that you believe in them. And I have seen that, that's from, like I said, from a very personal perspective, every single week. It has inspired me to do that with my people, not just in my Parisi, but in my Training for Warriors. I do Facebook Lives every single week from the Coach's Corner in Parisi and then for TFW. And here's the thing, like, somebody asked me this, they go, well, what are you getting out of it? And the first thing that the question was, and I obviously know what they meant, what are you getting monetarily? And I said, nothing. I don't want anything. This is who I am, coach. Like, that's who I am. And I've seen that. I would say right now, for me, from a personal perspective, Martin's given me the leadership, better leadership skills. And the cool thing is, you know, I'm older than Martin, but it doesn't matter. I learned so much from different people. And listen, inspirational stuff. I've been on a podcast. I'm not promoting another one, but it's just another point, is that the Brotherhood of Fatherhood. I got involved in that, and I'm involved now in you, and you motivate me like that. See, leaders in our industry are people that are not talking about the next deadlift progression. It's the people that are talking about leadership. And like you said, are we making the lives of young men and young women better? Yep. And in turn, we're going to make our lives better ourselves. Yes. And you know, it's really frustrating, like on a national, international level, it's kind of difficult to find those people that are gonna point in the right direction for integrity right now. I think it's like you said, there's skewed values. So if we can find somebody locally that we can look at, then I think I think we're on the right path. So in a nutshell, that's what I would say. Yeah, Martin definitely has changed the way I think about things recently.
He's a great guy. Heard him many times over. Yep. I don't know him personally. Heard him many times on podcasts and interviews and things like that. Great guy. So I agree with you. He's a great individual. Self-discipline. What does it mean to you?
Oh, wow. So self-discipline for me always ties into integrity. So it's with integrity, we're talking about doing the right things at the right time, all the time when nobody's looking. The reality is that I think the compass inside you is the self-discipline part that monitors all that. So if you say you're going to do something, you do it. If you say that and if you don't do it, own up to it that you didn't do it. Okay, I didn't do it. And you got to be truthful about it. It's making sure that you're on the right path to do the right things when you're supposed to do them, and having consequences when you don't do them. Listen, Dave. I mean, I can't speak for you. I can speak for myself. I have had some lapses in my self-discipline with my business, with my life, with everything, and it's just a matter of always straightening out that moral compass and looking internally. You know, I think that's important.
I 100%, you know, I've been the same way. You know what I mean? I've had the discipline issues, and it comes back to myself. And you know, I think so many young people, you know what I mean, that pass the buck, because that's what they're told to do. They're told to pass the buck to somebody. It's not your fault. It's this person's fault why you didn't successful or why you messed up in life. And when you think about it, when you're younger, you're like, yeah, that's what you do. You pass the buck because you don't want to get in trouble. But the older you get, at least for myself, I've realized that no, it's on me, 100% on me. If my employees fail, it's me because I didn't do the job I was supposed to do. Now I hold them accountable. Like, listen, you need to go back and fix this, but I will take the blame for not doing it right. So I'm going to have to teach you again or show you a different way because maybe you just didn't understand it. And I think that's where people don't want to do it. They don't want to take the blame. They don't want to do these things, and they want to pass everything off. And I think you're right. I think self-discipline, you have to have that ability to own up to what you do, you know, right, and also own up to what you do wrong, and accept those things, and then fix them. Like you said, you have to fix them, move forward, and get them done. So, I mean, I think that's a great thing when it comes to self-discipline. I'm right with you. Now, I want to get with you a little more personal here, and this question goes in to something I ask all the people. What do you fear? You personally, what do you fear?
Oh, wow. Okay. So I'm going to tell you. So my father passed away when I was 18 years old. My dad smoked 5 packs of cigarettes a day, drank a fifth of gin a day, was in a high stress job. That was interesting guy. Wonderful man though. And I always choose to remember the great things about him. You know, like I said, he'll be with me Sunday watching my Steelers play the Browns. So, you know, basically, you know, in spirit and everything. But you know what? When everybody talks about fear, see, here's what my dad, what killed my father was he was afraid to move forward in his life. He was afraid, and his own insecurities created, I think, the recipe for disaster for him. And I would tell you that I think what I'm afraid of is internally failing in my mind to achieve what I believe is greatness. And greatness can be anything, but it's that my own internal struggle with what, whether it be an insecurity, whether it be, fear is a funny thing because it can manifest itself in so many different ways. So if you ask me, like people say, well, what are you afraid that you couldn't do? I'd be afraid I couldn't take care of my family. I'd be afraid that I couldn't provide. I'd be afraid that my legacy would be something that I didn't want my legacy to be. I want to be remembered. Nowadays, I know I want to be remembered for somebody that contributes and helps society and helps people through charity work to succeed. And that's what I'd want my legacy to be, not how many kids I trained that went in the NFL or anything like that. I'd rather be known for something in greatness. But I got to believe that. So I think that that's, and I don't know, I guess in our industry, maybe sometimes we forget about the fact it's okay to have those vulnerabilities and still be strong. And I would say that that's my greatest fear is not being the provider for my family.
Yeah.
And
yeah. I'm with you. Now, let me ask you this, build on that one. How do you get through it? You know, how do you get over some of that fear? Because you know what I mean? Fear can consume you.
Yes.
You know, and that's one of the hardest things, I think, as a male, especially anybody really, that we allow that to consume us. So how do we get by that and continue to move on? And like you said, continue to build a good, productive society.
Well, you know, it's so funny that you're talking about that. So I've been reading a lot, and I read a lot of varied subjects. I'm just like you. I'm a big history guy. I love history, and I've been reading a book about Amelia Earhart. And what's fascinating about her is people just think that she was just about the fact that she disappeared, but the reality is that, I mean, she was quite a remarkable person overall, amazing. And she said this. She said that fear are paper tigers. And that she said, once you commit to something, commit to it and stop worrying. She said, continue moving forward. And when she was asked about, right before she had left, she had sent her husband a letter. And she said, I know the inherent dangers that I'm going to be facing. And if I don't come back, I accept the reality of what's happening, but I must do this. And so, you know, fear is always that statement. It's false evidence appearing real. And fear is, Dave, I think that you get through fear by just doing exactly what you said. Just get through it. And if you can't, find somebody, a mentor, to help you get through it. And it doesn't matter who you are, how tough you are. I know MMA fighters that need mentors because their insecurities are so intense, and you wouldn't expect it, you know? So I'm a big believer in history, and you can look to history to find answers to a lot of things about what perceptions of fear are.
Yeah, I agree. I think a lot of times we nowadays skip history, and
Not good.
unfortunately, I think we're reaping the time right now. I think that's why we're reaping what we're reaping, because we didn't learn from history. I think
I agree.
in the past they did, and I think we forgot it right now. So I agree with you. Here's another question for you. What does mental toughness mean to you?
Mental toughness. Wow. I think it's everything we've been talking about. I think mental toughness is having the ability to realize, number one, what your perceived limitations are, and then work towards making them your strengths, and then your existing strengths to make them even. I think that when you are able to make the strength that you've got even stronger, I think you can overcome anything. It's also understanding that you're going to fail, and you're going to have to figure out how to work around that. Obstacles with obstacles are always meant to be climbed over, gone around, dug under, or gone through. And I really believe that very strongly. Mental toughness is having the ability to recognize not just the fact that you can win at something, that there's going to be the fact that you could fail at something, but you got to learn from it. That to me is mental toughness. And you said it earlier. It's true. We have a society right now that cannot accept any kind of failure whatsoever. That's weakness. And then they move away from their moral compass. They move away from all of their values and principles. And then that's where weakness starts to be prevalent. So that's my definition of mental toughness.
No, I think that's great. And I think, you nailed it right. The failure part is that it is weakness. When you can't accept that you failed, you are weak. There's a weakness there that's going on. There's insecurity, like you said, that is causing that. And it's unfortunate because we're not allowing people to fail. At the sports level, let's be honest, it starts a lot there, with these youth sports stuff. But then it also fails as you move up the chain, like mom and dad are calling, people to be like, hey, listen, why did my son get this job? Well, your son wasn't qualified. What are you calling me for? Your son or daughter is 24, 25 years old. You're not supposed to be doing that stuff. My mom and dad never got involved. They didn't get involved with coaches. They said, listen, if you want to play more, you go ask the coach what you need to do. Not say, hey, play me more, but go find out what you need to do and why you're not playing. Do it in a respectful way. You don't have that. It's all of a sudden it comes right from the parents. And I'm like, we got to get out of that. We got to accept the responsibilities, and we got to learn that, hey, failure is okay. We don't like it, but let's learn from it. And I think that is a mental toughness thing. I think that's really tough when you mentally have to overcome the failures in life, especially nowadays. So I agree with you 100%. Another personal thing for you. What's one of your biggest failures or one of your biggest learning experiences in life?
Failing at marriage. I would say that was one of my biggest failures. And now also it's one of my greatest successes because I had my son Cole, but it was I think my immaturity and my inability to manage a marriage and to trust in my marriage. So, to me, I would tell you that's probably the biggest failure. But in the end, also, if you look at it, even in failure, you find, some great things in failure. I would never say anything I've ever done in business has been a failure because it's always helped me build. So I view failure as a learning experience for sure. No doubt about it.
Yeah. And I think that's key. You know what I mean? I think you can fail and you learn from it. And I agree. And I think that's what we have to understand with that whole failure thing is that it's a learning experience. And if you're not learning from it, you're not growing, and we're not progressing. Go the opposite end of the spectrum. What's been one of your greatest growths in life?
Well, I always say that my son is my greatest growth. I think that I've learned so much as a father. That's my greatest success. But if you asked about my greatest growth in life, if we took it from the business perspective, it's just what I went back to with what your core mission is. Originally when I first started out, I was working in the Nautilus principle, super slow to failure, counting reps like a baboon, for wealthy clients on the main line, and then training professional athletes. Dave, I fell into, within a week, I went from doing personal training to training some of the best tennis players in the world because I knew somebody in that field. Well, I didn't know what I was doing. I had no clue. I was 23 years old. I had no clue what I was doing. But then what happened was it morphed into this. Like I said, I'll give you an example. We just, we're starting this fundraiser we've been doing for a young boy in our community named Connor Dobbin. Connor has what's called Sanfilippo syndrome. We started this. I rallied a bunch of Training for Warriors, Parisis, and independent programs to do fundraisers for him. They need $3 million to do this trial. And now the kid's been all over the world now in terms of his story. We raised over 10,000 in the pandemic, and I'm going to raise a lot more money in the spring for this family. The reason I'm doing it is that it's very near and dear to me because they're a local family. And so it's childhood Alzheimer's that he is afflicted with. And he's going to get that trial. I mean, the Chicago Bears recognized it. The Philadelphia Union have put out stuff about it for him. And that to me, that's my mission. That's where I want to be remembered for, is that I'm going to rally behind those who can't rally for themselves and who need help. That's my mission. So here I am in sports performance and strength training and doing all this. And if you ask me what I really want to do, I want to have a company that's stable enough that I can do more charity work. To me, that's the greatest success I could possibly have in my industry. And we're going to raise that $3 million for that boy. There's no question in my mind about it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I've been following some of the story that you've been talking about, online on your Facebook and stuff. And I think what you do, and you do this a lot because you do it with also the shaken baby syndrome. I know you raise a lot of money for kids, the shaken baby. You've been doing it for years, since I've actually met you 7 years ago. I don't know if that's when you started, maybe a little before that, but I know it's around earlier on then.
It was right then.
Yeah, because I remember talking about it. And you do those things. And I think that's what men do. You know what I mean? Once you get to a certain point in your life, you're like, I want to help other people. It's not about me. Real men, it's not about me. It's about empowering other people, helping them where they need help. And I've always said this, and I know you and I are probably on the same page when it comes to this. Men can do so many great things, and women too. Men and women can do so many great things if we're not forced into it.
Correct.
So when the government forces you to do something, it's harder to do because you're like, wait a second. It's just like mom and dad growing up. When you start to become that teenager, mom and dad are forcing you to clean your room. You're like, oh gosh, got to do that. But when you do it on your own because you actually want to do it or you want to help, the world's a great place. The world's phenomenal. And what you're doing is nobody's forcing you to do it. You're doing it because you want to do it. And that's what we have to understand in society. That's what men need to do. We need to do this with other younger men, help them out, get through the trials and tribulations of life to get to that point. So I personally love what you do, honestly. I think it's awesome.
Isn't that also, like, when we talk about this, isn't this what makes America great? Yep. It is our exceptionalism that makes us great. And by the fact that we're not forced to do things. Yep. The whole idea is that we have this independent thought process, and we can say, I want to aspire for greatness. I don't have to be told that I can't be great. I don't want to have to be told that the only way I can be great is if I do this, this, and this. No, I think that's what makes us remarkable. And I've been saying it my entire life. I believe in the reason I believe in the American exceptionalism and the exceptionalism of men in this country is that we believe in that. Yep. And like we talked about in the beginning, it's very unfortunate that we're in a society right now that wants to tamp that down and not let that flourish. And it's what makes us great. Yep. So anyway.
I agree. The individualism, the ideas of it makes us unique as human beings. All human beings across
absolutely
the world. This is what God instilled in us. And I think that's what we forget sometimes, is that God's the creator. God's the one who gave us this ability, free choice to do these things, right and wrong. You have the ability to do right and wrong. But at the end of the day, like you said, that moral compass is there. Are we allowing it to come out? And as men, sometimes we squash it because society tells us not to be this way, not to be who you are. You have to be here. And that's one of my, my next questions. What do you think drives most men today? What is it that's driving men to what they're doing, And I'll just give you a real quick example, maybe not an example, but the thing is, is it for materialistic things? Is it for their ego? What do you think's driving men today?
Well, I would hope that in talking to a lot of people that I know, such as yourself, and a lot of people that I know in this industry, and because, listen, we gravitate to the people where, our friendship bases are built around the people that we know in our sphere of influence. I'm actually seeing the way we think seems to be the prevailing thought process amongst men in our group. And to be honest with you, then I do also believe that there's a lot of women in the fitness industry that think the same way, the exceptionalism of both men and women. However, I think society right now is driven on materialistic gain. I think it's driven on social media sound bites. I think it is built on this kind of strange insecurity that springs from it. I also think that we are a society that absolutely has no clue what its identity is. And that's why I said, like, coaches seem to know what their identity is and seem to know that I do believe, and I will always say this, we are certainly a bastion right now of the values process in this country. Making sure that young people, and their parents are looking to us, coach, about this. They're looking to us to guide their kids better because they don't feel they can. And then that tracks back to this insidious insecurity that's going on in this world where, parents can't make any damn decisions. So they're leaving it up to us to make those decisions. And I would tell you that that's where I think it is right. And that's what it's driven on. But however, what's really cool is that we're in an industry, we can make real change. Like, we can do it. And that's why I think coaching is one of the most important careers in the world right now.
No, I think you're right with how society looks at it. The more likes you get on a picture, the more comments you get, the more, people who follow you. It's become the norm. And it's almost like that's what you have to do. And for people who don't have that a lot of times, that's a crushing ego thing. It crushes their ego. And then you see why the suicide rate continues to rise, and especially among males. I'm not saying it doesn't happen in females, but let's be honest. I'm reading all these articles during this whole time that lockdowns are going on and shutdowns across the country. And a lot of it has to do with males, young high school, college age males that are taking their life. And is it because of the isolationism? Is it because, maybe they're not quite as popular as they want to be, or what? And I think that's where we have to get by. Like, hey, that's not the most important thing in life. I understand that it's important maybe at that time frame you think it is, but if we can start instilling these values and morals and groundwork at a young age with these young males, and parents start, hey, listen, you got to make this decision, and taking that responsibility upon themselves as parents, I think we can turn this whole thing around. And I agree with you. Coaches do have a major role. And I think the problem I see that I see with at least 4 coaches I've talked to during this whole year, this past year, they're defeated. Coaches are defeated. They've been in it for, and I'm not talking about the sports coach, the strength coaches, but actually high school coaches. They're defeated. And, they've been in it for 20 years, 25 years ago. It's just different. And I can't take it anymore, where I still love the kids, but the responsibility is not there because it's taken away from the parents, and the parents are always on. And I think we need to have that whole shift. And that whole shift has to start to occur. And I think you and I, play a major role in that. Like, hey, listen, we're not in the school districts. We're outside of them, but we can still have a huge impact. And I think that's any male can have a huge impact on what's going on. And I think we need to do a better job of that, because I'm tired of reading a headline saying this 18-year-old promising star took his life, or his career ended because of such and such. And we don't need to see this anymore. We shouldn't be seeing this at such a young age. I mean, I never thought of it growing up ever in my life. Still never did. Of taking my life. And I don't even know anybody really in my school when I was going, like, it was a prevalent thing,
right.
And it's just sad to see. And I think, we need to do a better job as a society, as coaches, as human beings, and as males, need to get them to understand, hey, listen, it's not the end of the world. It's tough, but we need to grow. And I agree with him. I agree with you.
Couldn't have said it better myself, man. That was eloquent. Perfect.
Last question here for you, Coach. 3 characteristics that you would describe as a real male or a real man.
3 characteristics. Integrity, vision, respect.
Explain them a little bit in detail for me. Give them to me.
Yeah, I think integrity it's that where you have an individual that's going to look at their actions and see how their actions, their own internal actions, will reflect on the society that's around them, their sphere of influence, who they are, what they represent, will actually start to spread out, create those anchor points, create those roots that are going to grow in their own society, in their own community. Vision is seeing what works, what doesn't work, and being able to express that and being able to create leadership from that, to be able to lead the way you're supposed to lead, but have true vision, really see what you want to accomplish. And respect is this deep, deep need to respect who you are as an individual internally, to respect the ones around you, whether they be your wife, your girlfriend, your children, your family, your friends, making sure that all the internal value and purpose that you have is going to be expressed out with respect to others. If you can carry all three of those, you can actually take your integrity, your vision, and your respect out into your community and help it grow. And it's exactly what you were talking about. I think what's lacking in the youth of today is purpose. I think what's lacking in a lot of the coaches, and it's so phenomenal that you've created this platform, because this is what they need. They don't need the next blocking technique, in football. They don't need the next technique in skating for hockey. They need to be told it's okay to be a man with integrity, vision, and respect. And it's okay to be able to express that, because if you do that, you're going to have these kids, they're going to hear that and they're going to listen to you, and then they become more productive in society. And that's what I see it as. That's what I see, that true leadership representing those three elements.
Yeah, Coach, it's funny because integrity is one of the things I think the word gets thrown around a lot, but you explaining it right there, I think really nails it home. It's not easy. Integrity is not an easy thing. Okay. But when you get it and you can cultivate it and get it into where it needs, it's an unbelievable thing, what you can accomplish and what society and in general can accomplish, and that respect thing, you mentioned that's one of the words that I always talk about. You got to have respect. You might not agree. And listen, you and I might not agree on a certain training program, platform or whatever. But we have the respect to listen to each other and be like, okay, well, I'm still not going to do that, but I respect what you're doing, or you look at it in politics. Well, I don't respect your side at all. That's what happens now. And so you just shut everybody out, and now it's just a big war that goes on. And these young kids are seeing that, and they're like, well, maybe that's how I'm supposed to act. That's how I'm supposed to be, because our leadership stinks in this country on both sides, is not getting the job done and showing it the correct way. And, you nailed it home with that, in the final part where you said with the vision. If we're looking at vision, when I look at, what we can accomplish, I look far out, whether I'll be here or not, maybe I won't, maybe the great Lord will take me, whenever he wants. But I think a lot of these kids aren't looking at the vision anymore, because they're not seeing a bright future. They're not seeing these things because they're seeing all the bleak and the negativity that's going on. I mean, look at the media. The media is so negative. That's all it is. It's so negative. And these kids are, inundated with that, now with the phones and everything else, they can get that information. And it's just crazy. You and I didn't have this. You and I didn't have to worry about media, because you and I were outside running around for like 12 hours every summer,
It's true. It's true.
And it was different. Yeah. And I think we, as adults, our age group, as parents, we forget this. These kids are inundated with this stuff all the time. It's stuff that you and I didn't even know who was running for president half the time when I was younger. Didn't care, didn't know. I was worried about how we're going to play, what we're going to do the next thing.
I totally agree. You're right.
These kids now, at a younger age, are inundated with it. And especially males are seeing this, and they're like, oh, crap, what am I going to do? Am I even going to be here? What's going to happen? And I think the vision is key. You got to still have vision of what you want to accomplish, how you want to accomplish it, and doing it the correct way. And all three of those things are so, so important in a characteristic of being a real man. We have to get back to that core value. We have to get back to the morals. We have to get back to the standards that sets people on the right path. And the positivity, you mentioned it, is key for what we're going to do in the future. And if we continue to have this negativity that continues to go on, we're going to go down a dark, dark path in this country, and start to see more and more young people take their lives and never fulfill the dreams that they possibly could fulfill. And that's unfortunate. because that's not how it's supposed to be. We weren't put on this earth just to be average. We're all put on this earth to be great. And
I love that.
Yeah, and we can all do it, but we all have to work together. We need people like you, Coach, and I really mean this, inspiring that greatness. And like I said, the stuff that you do charity-wise is phenomenal, and that's what a real man does. You stepped up where a hole was, where a part is missing. You stepped up and you took that upon yourself without any monetary gain. You said it there. You sat on meetings and you made nothing off of it, $0, but yet you do it because you have a passion, and you're not the richest man in the world. It's not like you're Bill Gates or Bezos. You do it because you want to do it. And that's what young men have to understand. If you have a passion for something and it helps better society, go do it. Get out there, make a difference. And you're an inspiration to me, Coach. I really appreciate you.
I appreciate that, Coach.
How you do it and how you handle your business. More people need to follow you, definitely on Facebook. They need to see the work that you're doing in your community, with the athletes you work with and the adults, but definitely what you do charity-wise. So I appreciate you being on, Coach, on the Real Man podcast here. I will have you. I plan on doing, I'm telling everybody, we plan on doing roundtable discussions where we get on Zoom, we do a Facebook Live.
Love it.
And we get in it, and men are just going to talk. We're just going to talk about certain subjects, certain ideas. And I want the input, ask questions of the other guys and all this kind of stuff. So we're going to be doing those over the next couple months. I'm definitely going to have you on because, like I said, your input is invaluable, and what men need to hear is definitely something I value greatly.
I appreciate that, Coach. I value you as well. I appreciate you a great deal, Coach. You inspire me as well. So it's not just a one-way street. It's a two-way street here.
I appreciate that, Coach. Well, listen, man, you have yourself a great day, and thank you so much for being on The Real Man.
You as well, and thank you for having me on. Take care, everyone.